So force on a current carrying wire inside a magnetic field. So as it turns out, today we will just look at the concept related to this, okay, without getting into the derivation and everything. At a later stage, when you study it in your class 12th physics, you can see the derivation of this formula also, which I'm writing. So suppose we have some kind of an arbitrary current carrying wire like this, I carrying a current like this, okay, and this is in some kind of a magnetic field, which may or may not even be uniform, but here I just show the magnetic field lines to be as if they are uniform magnetic field lines. Okay. A little later today, we'll discuss also how we can generate a uniform magnetic field. What kind of system generates magnetic field which is uniform. So this is our magnetic field. So at any point, the magnetic field vector is lying along these parallel lines and has a magnitude accordingly. Okay. So now what happens is to calculate the force on the whole current carrying wire inside this, what we have to do is we have to first just analyze a section of the wire. Okay. So we analyze what is called a current element. So this becomes important to understand over here. We define a new quantity called a current element. So a current element is basically like a differential length element of the wire, but it has dimension of length into current actually. Okay, so I'll explain in more detail what this means. So if you cut a small differential section of the wire whose length is equal to dl, okay, and you multiply that length dl with the current along that wire, then we get what is called a length element, or we get what is called a current element. Okay, so we have a current element IDL. So there is something called a current element, which we denote with this kind of symbol, which is basically I into DL multiplied by a certain unit vector. So here I is the current in the wire, DL is a differential length element, so a small length and the direction of this vector, which is the unit vector n cap, this is the unit vector along the tangent to the wire. So along the tangent to the wire at the given point, at the given DL, and pointing along the direction of current in which the current is flowing. Okay, so the tangent to the wire at this point you can see is like this kind of a line. So it's pointing towards the right and not towards the left because the current is flowing towards the right. Okay, so given any wire, if we want to find the current element at such a point, so we need to first draw the tangent at that point. So this is the tangent line. Then we need to cut a section of that wire of length dl. And then depending on which direction the current is flowing. So if the current is flowing like this, then the current element vector will point in this direction. So it will be current into dl treated as a vector where dl vectors, I mean this ideal vector's direction is along the tangent in the direction in which the current is flowing. So this is a current element. Okay. So this is nothing to do with the force yet. Here we are just understanding what a current element is. Now next we will apply magnetism to understand what is the force acting on this current element. What is the magnetic force acting on this current element because of that current carrying wire. So when we observe this, now there are two ways to understand. One is like we can just think of it as an experimental result. The other way is that it is an extension of this earlier formula that we've written. F is equal to QV cross B, because inside the wire what is happening? There is a stream of electrons that are flowing with a certain velocity called drift velocity. And that drift velocity is directly proportionate in magnitude to the amount of current. So that stream of electrons flowing inside the wire is continuously experiencing magnetic force because of this field. So as a result of that, any small element of the wire has a certain number of electrons present in it at a given moment. and those electrons are experiencing a collective amount of force, which is basically the magnetic force acting on that wire, because there are charged particles moving inside that wire. So there is also a way to derive this formula, which I'm writing next, but we will not get into the derivation. So next we will understand the magnetic force on the current element IDL inside the magnetic field E. Okay, so that magnetic force is given by a formula. So as I said, this formula can be derived using a concept called drift velocity, which we'll study later in class 12th current electricity, and using the formula of magnetic force on a charged particle. Using a combination of these two things, this formula I'm going to write right now can also be derived, but right now we will not be deriving it, we'll just write it as a formula. So this is equal to some constant into IDL cross B, and that constant in the SI system becomes unity. So when we take I in amperes, DL in meters, and magnetic field in Tesla, we can see that that constant actually becomes 1 in SI system. So this reduces to IDL cross B. So this becomes the formula for magnetic force acting on a current element. So now the net force acting on the wire because of the magnetic field will be integration of the forces acting on all the current elements. So it will be integration of IDL cross B. So this whole thing is a vector actually. I into DL is the current element vector. So we should treat it like this. Okay. So this is an important formula for us, and even more important than this formula itself is going to be the application of this formula in two very important cases. One is a straight wire carrying current inside a magnetic field, inside a perpendicular magnetic field, and the other is going to be a circular loop of current, again inside a magnetic field. So we're going to come to those things. Okay. Now, additionally, you can see that here the magnitude of this force will become IDL B sine theta, where theta is the angle between the magnetic field at a point and the current element vector.
Can you explain the note?
Yeah, the magnitude of the force. Na? So you know that magnitude of A cross B is AB sine theta. Na? So it
Yes,
becomes
sir.
IDL
Yes,
B sine
understood.
theta. It's coming from that. So like in this diagram, suppose my current carrying wire is like this, and I've taken a current element at some point like this. So it's like this. This is IDL. Now suppose where that current element is present, at that point there is a magnetic field vector, which is like this. Then this is the angle theta we'll be talking about. And what will be the direction of IDL cross B in this case? It will be coming out of the plane. You can see that if you point your right hand thumb along IDL and point your right hand fingers along B. So IDL cross B is where your palm is pointing. So if you do that on this screen, you'll see your palm is facing towards you. So it's coming out of the screen. So in this case, the force BF, which will be IDL cross B, it will have a magnitude of IDL B sine theta, and it will have a direction which will be coming out of the plane. So coming out, we usually denote with a dot to show that the tip of the vector is coming out. We can also show it with a dot with a circle around it. So the force acting on that current element is coming out of the plane. Whereas going into the plane, we represent with a cross to show that we are seeing a vector arrow from its rear side. Okay, now let's quickly understand the application of this. So as I said, the two important applications for us, especially right now at KVPY level, is these two. One is if we have a straight conductor, okay, like this, straight wire, okay, with part of it inside a uniform magnetic field. Okay, so for example, here suppose we have a situation like this, that this is a straight conductor.
This is the application of current element.
Yes, sorry.
Application for current element, right?
Didn't understand your question, but what was it?
This is the application for current element, right?
This is the application for finding out the magnetic force on a current carrying wire. Yeah. Okay. So straight conductor, let's say along the x-axis. In the first case, let's take a situation where there is a magnetic field present like this, only in this much region between x equal to 0 to x equal to d, or let's say x equal to L. And that magnetic field is shown like this, going into the plane. So into the plane is shown with crosses, as I was showing you, as I was telling you before. So a magnetic field that is going into the plane of the screen or into the plane of the paper in the drawing will always be shown with a series of crosses like this. So the first situation we are seeing is this one, that we have a uniform magnetic field. Now that is, let's say, minus B naught K cap, because we are taking a system of XY axis like this. This is our Y axis, this is our X axis. So Z axis is coming out of the plane. Okay. So there's a uniform field. The planes X equal to 0 and X equal to T. So X equal to 0, you'll understand, is basically the YZ plane. And this is a
T or
plane
L?
parallel, yeah, L. So X equal to L. So X equal to L is a plane which is parallel to the YZ plane. Okay. And passing through that point X equal to L on the X axis like this. So we have to find, so this is carrying current I. So you want to find in this situation the magnetic force acting on the wire. So we have to express it as a vector. That means we have to clearly give the direction as well as the magnitude. So this type of application is actually very simple but very important. Okay. So here what we will do is, when we consider any current element, so you will be able to solve this yourself, but just because we have to cover a lot of things in these lectures, so I will just directly come to the solution of this. Okay. So now basically you'll see that there are two types of current elements in this wire, assuming that it's very long and carrying current in this sort of direction. Okay. One type of current carrying element is inside the magnetic field, and one type is outside the magnetic field. So the type of current element that is outside the magnetic field, this is not going to experience any force. Okay. But the type of current element that is inside the magnetic field, it will experience a magnetic field going into the plane. So what will be the direction of ideal cross B here? Can you tell me? What should be the direction of ideal cross B for this one, the second one that I've drawn, which is inside the magnetic field? Ideal is pointing along the x-axis, right? And B is pointing into the plane of the paper. So what should be the direction?
Upwards.
Yes, it should be upwards. So it will experience a force like this at 90 degrees like this. Okay. This force will be ideal cross B. So we can even understand. So the force that is acting everywhere between the points x equal to 0 to x equal to L. So for all such current elements, it's acting. So you can see that for any current element such that its x coordinate is between 0 and L. Okay. The force acting, which is ideal cross B, if we want to write it properly as a vector, it is like I dx I cap cross product with minus B naught K cap. So it is I B naught dx into I cap cross minus K cap. Now, as you all know, I cross K is minus J. So I cross minus K will become J. So this becomes I B J cap. Okay. So this becomes a force on such an element. Okay. Whereas if you go outside of this list, or x greater than L or x less than 0, the force is 0. So that's of course a separate matter. So now the net force that is acting on this wire, because all these elements will experience upward forces like this. Okay. So the net force is going to be upwards only like this. So the net force is going to be the integration of df. So that when you're doing the integration, you can see I B naught into integration of dx, and the unit vector is j cap, going from x equal to 0 to x equal to L. So very simply, it is IL B naught, but the direction is j cap. Okay. So we can just understand that on this wire, any current element here is experiencing a force like this, ideal B. So this whole section between x equal to 0 to x equal to n will experience a net force, which will be upwards like this, which will become ILP. Okay, so this was the first situation of this application of this formula, IDL cross B, in a situation where we have a straight conductor and part of the straight conductor is inside a uniform magnetic field like this. Now, the second example of this we'll take as first, you can just quickly note down the key points over here. Okay, now let's see the next kind of situation we can have.
Can I wait a second?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, people. Now the next situation we have is like this, that we have a current carrying wire, which is a straight wire, but it's not infinitely long. Previously we had it along this thing. So the current exists only in this limited section, which is like this. Okay, between the points. In fact, let's not use the symbol B because that will be used for magnetic field. So the current carrying wire exists between the points P and Q. Okay, and there is a uniform magnetic field which is like this. Okay. Now suppose it is given to us that in this is our system, XY system. So a straight wire PQ of length L carries current I along the positive x-axis, as you can see in the diagram, okay, from P to Q. Okay, so we've just arranged the system in such a way that current is being generated at the point P and the wire is carrying it to the point Q, where that current is getting absorbed. Now, this kind of situation can be created in a number of different ways. So right now, it might seem a little strange that there's no closed circuit or whatever, but don't worry about that. Okay, so we have arranged by some mechanism that current is just flowing from the point P to Q through a conducting straight wire like this. Okay, now this is inside a uniform field, a uniform magnetic field, which is given by this kind of a vector. It is, let's say, 0.6 I cap plus 0.8 J cap. So as you can see, the magnetic field vector has an x, y, it lies in the xy plane. Okay, so we want to find the net force, net magnetic force, okay, on the wire. So you have to give both the magnitude as well as the direction. So this is another type of likely question at KVPY level or basic application of that IDL cross B. So just give this a quick try, we'll discuss. Okay, so anybody got the answer for this? So here you can see that if you take any current element on the wire, what is the direction of the current element? It is along the
Z.
x-axis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is the direction of the magnetic field? So this current element,
Some angle would be.
it has like, so this again we can treat it like I dx I cap. Okay, and the magnetic field vector is like this. Okay, so if this angle is theta whatever, so this time you can see IDL cross B is pointing in which direction? It's coming out of the plane, right?
Yes.
So the df will be like this. So you can understand this just this way only. Okay, that df will be I dx p naught sine theta, and the direction of it will be k cap. Or you can understand it this way also, that df is ideal cross b. So when you do this cross product, this I dx I cap cross product with b naught into cos theta I cap plus sin theta j cap. So when you execute this cross product, you can see it is because I cross j is k and I cross I is 0. By the way, okay. So from this you can see that the magnitude of the field is b naught, and theta with respect to the x-axis, this theta is cos inverse 0.6 or sine inverse 0.8 is 53 degrees. Okay. This will become 0.8 IB naught. So the net force will be coming out of the plane. 0.8 IB naught. Integral dx from x equal to 0 to x equal to L. That is from the point P to the point Q. And the direction of this is along k cap. So this is another application example. Okay, now next thing consider over here is a circular loop, okay, or actually any closed loop inside a uniform field So let's start with the example of a circular loop. Then later we'll change it to any shape. So suppose we have a loop carrying anti-clockwise current. Radius r and all that. And this is inside a magnetic field, let's say coming out of the plane. A uniform magnetic field coming out of the plane. So coming out of the plane is represented by a set of dots. So we have a magnetic field which is uniform and coming out of the plane, so it's like this. If we are taking this as our xy plane. So what we'll see here is that if you consider any current element at an angle theta, you're considering a current element like this. So it subtends a small angle d theta and all that. Now you can see what is the direction of the force going to be on this. IDL is pointing like this along the tangential direction. B is coming out of the plane, so it's perpendicular to it. So IDL cross B, when you push your fingers like that, you'll see that the force will be radially outwards. If you have force like this. And that force's magnitude will be IDL B naught. Because the angle between the DL vector, IDL vector and B naught K cap vector is 90 degrees. So that sine theta will be 1. So now you see that for every current element like this, at the diametrically opposite point, there is a current element like this. Now for this one, what will be the direction of IDL cross B? The direction of IDL cross B will again be radially outwards. You can see that IDL is pointing like this. So what will happen is diametrically opposite current elements will experience equal and opposite force. So in pairs, the forces on diametrically opposite current elements cancel. So the net force becomes 0. So this is an important result to understand here. So now we'll extrapolate this into any other type of shape. So for example, if we start with something like this, we have a square loop of dimension L by L. Again, inside a uniform field, this time let's say going into the plane. We have B is equal to minus B naught K cap. So we've taken this as our XY plane. And this time also, let's say the current is anti-clockwise like this. So each of these sections will experience force. Now you'll see it will be like this. This will experience a force ILB. This will experience an equal and opposite force ILB. This will experience a force like this. This will experience a force like this. So again, the net force is the vector sum of these four forces will become 0. So now using these, we can extrapolate that we have any kind of closed loop carrying current I like this. Okay. And suppose this closed loop is lying in the XY plane. And now the magnetic field could be anything, it need not be same. So B could have all components, Bx I cap plus By J cap plus Bz K cap, but it's uniform. So always what will happen is that the net force on the closed loop will be 0. So this is an important concept. So any closed loop, that means any shape, but it's a closed loop, but the field should be uniform. So if the field is uniform, then the net force is 0. Just a moment, the screen has stopped sharing. Get it back online. Yeah, it's coming up, just a moment.
So it would be zero or a null vector, like the current elements when they cancel.
A null vector is a vector of zero magnitude. So
Sign. What would be its direction?
now sometimes we make use of this indirectly. That's why this theorem is important. That if you have a closed loop, the net force on it will be zero. So how we make use of this in an indirect example is, now suppose we have an arbitrary kind of shape. Okay, we have a shape of a wire which is like, let's say like this. So like this, where this is, let's say, 12 meters long and this is 16 meters long. Okay, and this angle is 90 degrees and it's carrying a current like this. And it's also given to us that there is magnetic field present only in this region, between here and here. So only in this region there is a uniform magnetic field present which is going into the plane. So this uniform magnetic field is, let us say, of magnitude 20 Teslas. And the current carried by this wire is 5 amperes. So if these points are PQR, so find the net force on the section PQR of the wire bent into a 90-degree angle as shown. So one way of doing the question is that we would individually find the force on each of these sections. And that's also feasible. There's nothing wrong with that. You can see that this section PQ like this. Okay. So its length is, let's say, L1, 12 meters long. It's carrying current like this inside a magnetic field which is going into the plane. So it will experience force in which direction? It will experience a force in this sort of direction, ideal cross B. B is into the plane, so it will experience a force perpendicular to itself like this. F1, where this angle is 90, and this F1's magnitude will be equal to IL1B. Where B is this, okay. Now similarly, the other section QR will experience so this is 16 meters in length, and here also the magnetic field is going into the plane. So now ideal cross B will be in this sort of direction. This angle will be 90. F2's magnitude is IL2B. So the net force will become the vector sum of F1 and F2. And you'll have to work out the geometry and all this. Okay. So when you work out the geometry here, you'll understand from the values which are given. This is 12, this is 16, and this is 90 degrees. Draw this line. This angle is 53, and this angle is 37. So now this vector and this vector, they are such that for this angle will now be 53 and this angle will now be 37. So F net will become F1 into minus cos 37 I cap plus sin 37 j cap. and this F2 will have a unit vector, which is cos 53 I cap plus sine 53 j cap. No? So you can do this. Okay, it's not a big deal. So you can see that the magnitude is 5 amperes into 12 meters into 20 Tesla. This is the magnitude in newtons, and F2's magnitude is 5 amperes into 16 meters into 20. You can write this as 1200 into minus 4 by 5 I cap plus 3 by 5 j cap, and this will simply become 1600 into 3 by 5 I cap plus 4 by 5 j cap. So when you add these, you can see the x component will become 0, and we'll have a net force which is 720 plus 1600 into 4 by 5, so that is 320 into 4, 1280. Okay. So you have a net force like this. Okay. But there's a bit of effort involved here. We are having to do the vector algebra and substitute and all that. Now we can also use a trick in this type of question, and for that only I have come to this. Okay. Okay, now the trick method of doing this question would be that I have this section PQ and QR which are carrying currents like this. Okay. Now if I put an imaginary wire here to make it a closed loop, this wire is actually not present, but if I just put an imaginary wire here, okay, then inside this kind of field, the net force should be zero because it's a closed loop. So on this, the net force should be a null vector, should be zero. Okay. So the force on the wire PQ plus the force on the section QR plus the force on the section RS should be zero. Okay. So now you can see that without getting into the actual calculation, but just looking at the direction. So the force on PQ is some F1 like this. The force on QR is some F2 like this. But the force on RS is very easy to calculate. If the length of this is L3, which is square root of L1 square plus L2 square, this force F3 will have a magnitude which is very easy to calculate. So FPQ plus FQR is actually minus of this force on RS. So this is what we want to calculate actually. We want to calculate the vector sum of F1 plus F2. This is what we want to find out actually. So this is nothing but minus of F3. And F3 we can see as a magnitude of I and 3B. So that is I into square root of, so that is 5 amperes into 20 meters into 20 Tesla. That's 2000 newtons. Okay. And the magnitude of F3 and the direction of F3 is downwards. So you can see it is minus 2000 J cap. So putting this here, you can see that F1 plus F2, which is the net force on that PQR section, will be 2000 J cap. So this kind of thing is called the principle of superposition. Okay, we are using the principle of superposition. That is, we add an imaginary wire RP to complete a loop, and for that loop we apply this concept. Yes, that's correct, Vedant. Okay. So current element in the third section will be along minus I cap, and the magnetic field is into the plane, so it's minus K cap. So when you do the cross product, you will see the force is along minus J cap. Okay, so I'll just minimize this a little so that have a look at this, then we'll move on to the next section. Okay, now moving on to the next section of magnetism, magnetic effect of current. So that is magnetic field produced by a current carrying wire. How do we calculate that? Okay. So this comes from something called Biot-Savart's law, which is an experimental law. In many ways, you can say that it is like the equivalent of Coulomb's law for magnetism. Because Coulomb's law, the interaction between two charged particles, comes from experimental analysis. It's a fundamental law which is not derived from anything else. Like that, Biot-Savart's law is also a fundamental law not derived from anything else. So, first of all, what we observe experimental observations is that firstly, if we have an infinitely long straight wire or extremely long straight wire going to plus infinity on this side and coming from minus infinity, so infinitely long straight wire, what we observe is that the magnetic field created by such a wire is in the form of circular loops. Which are as if the wire is the common axis for these loops. So if you look at the magnetic field lines in a plane, let me draw this with different shades so you don't confuse it. So in a plane like this, in a plane that is being cut by this wire perpendicularly, we will see that they form circular loops such that they follow the right hand thumb rule. That is, the orientation is anti-clockwise if the current is coming out. So this creates circular field lines which are coaxial with respect to the wire, the infinitely long straight wire. So for example, if this diagram is again such that the wire is along the z axis. Now if we look at the top view of the same thing, so we are looking into the xy plane. This is x and we are looking into the xy plane and z axis is coming out. So here the current carrying wire will be coming out. So the magnetic field lines that we will see will be circular loops such that if the current is coming out of the plane, then the loops will have a sense which is anti-clockwise. Whereas if the current was going into the plane, then the loops would have a sense which is clockwise. So we'll come back to Biot-Savart's law, but Biot-Savart's law can be used to justify each of these things. Okay? But before that, let's understand the important direct aspects of it. So now what exactly is the magnetic field vector at a particular point, which is at a distance r from the wire? So the magnetic field at a point like this will be pointing in the direction tangent to the circle. So it will be like this at such a point. Okay. And it will be given by the formula mu naught I divided by 2 pi r. Insulation can cancel to a certain extent. Okay, it can't really cancel altogether. But in the region where the insulator is present, magnetic field can get cancelled. I mean, can be weakened a lot. Okay. So now, like this, you can see that at any other point like this, the magnetic field vector is like this. At any other point like this, the magnetic field vector is like this. So they form circular closed loop type of field lines which follow this geometry. Yes, it weakens it. So it can really significantly weaken it such that it becomes negligible. So in this formula, mu naught is a universal constant called the permeability of free space. Like for electrostatics, Coulomb's law, we had epsilon naught, which was the permittivity of free space. This is the permeability of free space. So this is also a universal constant of physics. And actually, there is what relation like this, that the speed of light in vacuum or air is given by this formula.
So speed of light in air.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is given by this formula. Epsilon naught is permittivity, which you discussed in electrostatics. U naught is now permeability. Now 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, remember I had a value of 9 into 10 raised to 9. Epsilon naught has a value of 8.89 into 10 raised to minus 11. But anyway, what is more important is to remember it this way. Now likewise, here also, mu naught has a value such that mu naught is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 Tesla meter per ampere. Or you can remember it this way, that mu naught by 4 pi is equal to 1 into 10 raised to minus 7 Tesla meter per ampere. Okay, now our next observation about, yeah.
So what's the unit of the permeability constant?
So it is Tesla meter per ampere, because you can see that this equation dimensionally 2 pi is dimensionless. B is in Tesla, radius is in meters, I is in, I mean radius, not distance from the straight wire, that one. Okay, now the second type of observation that we see is magnetic field due to a circular loop of current. In this, we look at two things. One is that if you look directly at the center of the circular loop, okay, suppose the circular loop is carrying current I anti-clockwise, and it's of radius capital R, then here the magnetic field at the center will be coming out of the plane. So if it's anti-clockwise current here, the magnetic field at the center, B will be along the axis. So in this case, it will be along K cap coming out of the plane, and its magnitude will be given by mu naught I by 2R. So you can see there's like a reverse symmetry here, that if the current is along the axis, then the magnetic field lines are circular loops. Whereas if the current carrying loop is a circular loop, then at the center, the magnetic field is along the axis. So this is the first aspect of it we should understand, the magnetic field at the center. Now the other thing, which we will not get into too much detail over here, because for KVPY first stage we don't need too much detail, but if you look at any point on the axis of the loop, okay, so again, a loop is lying in the XY plane. So I'm now drawing this as a three-dimensional diagram. Now, if I look at any general point along the axis like this, the loop, the Z axis, okay. So if I look at a point which is over here, 0, 0, Z. So at a point on the loop's axis, that is at distance Z from the center. So the field will again be along the axis. Even at a point on the other side, the field will be along the axis, which satisfies that directional thing, that when you look at it from above, where if the current appears anti-clockwise, then at any sort of point like this, the field is coming towards you. And if you look at it from the other side, where the current will appear to be clockwise, then the field is going away from you. So at such a point, we will see that the field is approximately equal to mu naught by 2 pi by Z cube. The field is inversely proportional to Z cube for Z being very large compared to R. Okay, so this is an approximated formula when Z is very large compared to R. The exact formula is something different. We will discuss about that in class 12. But if we are at an axial point such that the distance of our point on the axis with respect to the center of the loop is Z, and that Z is very large compared to the radius of the loop. Okay? So let's say the radius is a few centimeters and the distance Z is in meters. So in that kind of situation, we can say that the field is inversely proportional to Z cube.
Sir, in that loops axis formula, it is u naught by 2u into I.
Into pi r square. Okay. So there's another way to remember this also. This is mu naught by 2 pi into current into area divided by Z2. Or it can also be written as mu naught upon 2 pi into something called magnetic dipole moment, mu, which is current into area. So this is called magnetic dipole moment. So it's a property of the current carrying loop. Just like a permanent magnet, like a bar magnet, also has a property called its dipole strength or its dipole moment. So like that, a current carrying loop also has a property which determines how much magnetic field there is when you are at a distance z on its axis. The stronger the dipole moment, the more the amount of magnetic field. So the dipole moment, as it turns out, is the product of the current it's carrying multiplied by the area of the loop.
Yes.
So once again, when we see all this in class 12th in detail at JE level, these formulae will all be derived from the fundamental law, which is called Biot-Savart's law. I'm coming to that. But the derivations are not something important for us here at KVPY level. We just need to know a couple of formulae. So for example, this formula is important for us, the field at the center of a circular loop, and the formula that we've seen above, that when you have an infinite straight wire carrying current I, then at a distance r from it, the magnetic field is given by mu naught I divided by 2 pi r. And as far as axial points is concerned, the formula is not so important. What is important is to understand this, the relationship that magnetic field is inversely proportional to z cube for the situation where z is large compared to the radius. And also the magnetic field is directly proportional to the magnetic dipole moment, where dipole moment mu is nothing but current into area. So I into pi r square. So they are like, two properties of the system.
So when Z is far greater than R, the
Yes.
magnetic is really low, right?
Sorry, magnetic field
It will be really weak, right?
will be really, so when Z is tending to infinity, magnetic field is tending to 0. That is clear, no?
So
Okay. So now see, if we draw these tiny magnetic field vectors together and make magnetic field lines, then the magnetic field line, which is along the axis, will look like a straight distance. So we are drawing the magnetic field lines, it will be like this. But at the same time, if we come very close to the wire, then at a point where you are very close to a circular wire, if your distance from the wire is very small, then for you the radius is becoming infinite. So the wire looks like a straight line. So the magnetic field there will be like a closed loop around that straight line. So when you put together all this information, you see that the magnetic field lines, due to a loop, a circular loop, they vary like this. Such that, if you come very close to the wire itself, then in your frame, the wire is looking like an infinite straight wire. So magnetic field lines will be like circular loops around it. But at the same time, from there, if you are going closer and closer to the axis, so by the time you reach the axis, the magnetic field line is exactly at the axis, is in fact an infinite straight line, going from minus infinity to plus infinity. So this is the shape of the magnetic field lines in general due to a single loop. So now this also helps us understand the magnetic field lines due to a coil or a solenoid. The magnetic field lines due to a coil of current, and then eventually a solenoid, where a solenoid is basically a very tightly wound coil. So first we will look at how the magnetic field lines due to a not such a tightly wound coil looks like. So reasonably loosely wound coil. If the current I is coming in like this, such that the current is going into the plane here and then coming out from this side. So each loop is carrying current going into the plane from above and then coming out of the plane from here, then again going into the plane like this. So then the magnetic field lines because of this will look like this. Like the one which is passing through the common axis of this coil, that one will be a perfect straight line, but the other ones will be bending like this. So you can immediately see that in the region outside of this, it just looks like a bar magnet, naturally occurring bar magnet. It has the same shape of magnetic field lines as this has. Okay, but then of course, if you go very close to these wires, then they form individual closed loops around them. That is also there. Now, so this is a coil. Now, if you wind this very, very densely, then the coil converts into a solenoid, very, very densely wound. The solenoid basically like this. In such a thing, what happens is that the magnetic field inside becomes almost a uniform magnetic field. The magnetic field inside such a solenoid is a uniform magnetic field. So a solenoid is a coil which is very densely wound, okay, and of length L, this length L, such that L is very large compared to its radius. It's the diameter. So you have to imagine a coil which is very densely wound, but also its length is a lot. Okay. So in that case, what happens is that we have a uniform magnetic field inside the solenoid. And that uniform magnetic field has a strength given by the formula. Now again, this is an important formula for us. So I'll circle it in red or box it in red, where here N is the coil winding density. That is the number of turns of the solenoid per unit length. Per unit length along its axis, the number of turns, that is small n, and I is of course the current in the solenoid. So solenoid is what we use in the physics laboratory to generate a uniform magnetic field. Inside the solenoid, we have a uniform magnetic field. So whatever experiments we want to do with charged particles to understand magnetic forces on it and all that, it has to be done inside a chamber, which is basically the chamber inside a very densely wound coil. And passing the appropriate amount of current through that densely wound solenoid will generate the appropriate amount of magnetic field. So the field lines will be parallel lines, parallel to the axis of the coil or axis of the solenoid, and uniformly dense. Okay, so these are the three sort of shapes of magnetic field that we should understand when we are talking about magnetic effect of current. Magnetic field lines due to a straight wire, which are circular loops. Magnetic field lines due to a single circular loop, which is what I've shown above. And also the formula of magnetic field at the center of the loop. And magnetic field lines due to a coil, which is kind of a sort of approximate diagram. And when we make that coil infinitely densely wound or very, very densely wound, and its length is very large compared to the radius, then it becomes more ordered. It becomes a solenoid, and the magnetic field lines inside that solenoid become almost perfectly uniform. Okay. So this is the essential part of magnetic effect of current. Now, just to conclude this as a sort of general knowledge, I will tell you all these formulae that we have written, where they actually come from. They come from an application of the experimental law called Biot-Savart's law. So in KVPY, you will not be having questions based on Biot-Savart's law, but just for continuity, you should understand how this actually comes. This comes from the experimental observation that if we have any current carrying wire, okay, and it's of any shape like this, then it creates magnetic field around it. And again, the magnetic field is expressed in such a way that at any general point P, we can calculate the magnetic field due to any general current element. So if we take a current element on the wire, ideal, okay, and we choose a point where we are calculating the magnetic field because of the entire wire, then the magnetic field created at that point because of just that current loop alone. Sorry, just that current element alone, not because of the whole wire. Okay, so that one will be given by, so if at a point P, which is at position vector R, with respect to a current element, ideal, the magnetic field due to, or you can say generated by that current element, ideal alone, not the whole wire, but that current element alone, that is given by the formula mu naught upon 4 pi ideal cross R upon R cube. Or this formula can be expressed in this way also, that the magnitude of this force, sorry, the magnitude of this field is mu naught by 4 pi ideal sine theta divided by R square. And the direction is along that cross product. This current element is like this and this, so this is the angle theta that we're talking about. And direction is along n cap, where n cap is the unit vector of okay, so just make a note of this. Just finishing up the lecture. No, it's fine. Just okay, people. So with this, we conclude this session. Okay. Next time, as I told you, we will discuss some of the core things from mechanics, which are essential for your KVPY, and also we will look ahead into electromagnetic induction from this point. Okay, that's it for today's class, people. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you give the notes as soon as possible?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll send the notes and the video very soon. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.